Hello boys and girls, Mrs. McPherson here. Today we're going to look at subtracting mixed numbers. So subtracting mixed numbers follows the same process as adding mixed numbers and fractions. We need to find the common denominator, rename our fractions, and then use our operation. However, we will find that subtracting mixed numbers often has another step that you have to do. And we often see this when we subtract whole numbers. Let me give you a whole number example to go over this. If I have the problem 21 minus 16, we know that when I solve a problem like this, I can't do 1 minus 6. So I need to borrow from my 2 to make that 1 and 11. And then that allows me to go ahead and solve. We will be doing something very similar when we subtract mixed numbers. So let's be on the lookout for that as we go through this first example. So the first example I have, and remember you're going to write these vertically, I have 8 and 3/8 minus 4 and 1/2. Okay, so as we know, our first step is to find the least common denominator. Okay, you can get yourself a chart. Okay, let's start with the small number. Let's start with 2. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And let's do our 8s. 8, 16. Oh, I noticed something. 8 is the common denominator. So luckily, I don't have to change 8 and 3/8. I can just leave that as it is. But I do need to change the 4 and 1/2, so it has an 8. So to do that, to get from 2 to 8, I need to multiply by 4. So I have to do the same to my numerator. So this is my new problem. Let's rewrite it down below so I have some more space. So I have 8 and 3/8 minus 4 and 4/8. Okay, now if we were to follow the same steps as if we were to add, you would start by doing your fractions first. Well, if I look here, I have 3/8 minus 4/8. Now, that isn't something I can do, right? You can't take 4 away from 3, just like you couldn't solve this problem here, because you don't have enough to take away. So we need to do something similar to what we do with whole numbers. We need to regroup. And in order for us to regroup, we're going to regroup out of our whole number of 8. So as we probably remember, when we show a whole number as a fraction, if I have one whole, I can write that as 1 over 1, 2 over 2, 3 over 3, 4 over 4. It doesn't matter how I write it as long as the numerator and the denominator is the same. So that actually makes it easy for us because we can choose what we want our fraction to look like when we take one whole out of our whole number. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a whole away, so that 8 will become a 7. And then I'm going to use 8 as my fraction, 8/8. Why do you think I chose 8/8? The reason I chose 8/8 is because I know that I need to have a common denominator. And since I have the freedom of choosing what I want to write my whole number fraction as, I'm going to choose 8s because they need to have the same denominator. So I took 1 away from the whole number, and this is it right here. But I need to tack that on to this fraction. So let me rewrite this problem over here. So now this becomes 7 and 11/8, because I had 3 plus 8 now is 11, minus 4 and 4/8. So you may notice that there's now an improper fraction in the problem, and that's okay. The reason it's there is because that is what will help me to finally subtract, and I will get my answer that will not be in an improper form. So now I can do 11 minus 4, which is 7/8. 7 minus 4 is 3. So your answer, going all the way back to 8 and 3/8 minus 4 1/2, would be 3 and 7/8. Okay? Let's look at another example. Let's look at this example here. we have 6 3/5 minus 4 1/6. Okay, first step, find the least common denominator. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 6, 12, 18, 24. Oh, I don't have anything yet. Let me keep going with my 5s. If you notice, 30 comes after 25, so 30 is my common denominator here. Okay? So what do you need to do to get from 5 to 30? You needed to multiply by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have to do the same up top, so you get 18. Okay, down here I need to multiply by 5. Okay, so now let me rewrite my problem. Now what you might notice with this problem is that you don't have to regroup in this problem because we have 18 and 5. So that's an easy subtraction problem that I can do, which is 13. Okay, so 18 minus 5 is 13, 6 minus 4 is 2. So 2 and 13/30 would be your answer to that problem. Okay, let's look at another problem. Okay. So you may come across a problem such as this. You may have a whole number minus a mixed number. Now, it may look simple enough to just go ahead and say, oh, well, you have 1/3 and you have 2, but it's actually not that easy. For this, we can think back to when we were subtracting decimals. When we came across a decimal like this, for instance, if we were subtracting this, we knew that we couldn't just bring this 7 down. We needed to annex a 0 in order to solve this problem. And something similar is happening here as well. Right now, it's just like you have a 0 where the fraction is. There's nothing there. But we need to put something there in order to solve it. So we're going to regroup from the 4, take a whole out. And how do you think I should rewrite that extra whole that I took out? How should I rewrite it? Remember, you want the common denominator, so you can write it using any number you want. Well, in this case, if I want to get a common denominator of 3, I'm going to write my whole number as 3/3. Let's rewrite it over here. So now this 4 becomes 3 3/3 minus 2 1/3. Okay, I can do 3 minus 1, so I get 2/3. 3 minus 2 is 1. 1 2/3. Okay. Let's do one more example together. And for this example, I want you to grab a piece of paper if you have one available to you, and I want you to solve this along with me. This would be just like if we were taking notes in class and you were following along with the instruction. Okay, let's do this problem. 5 5/8 minus 3 1/4. Okay, so I need to find a common denominator. Okay, start with 4, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 8. Oh, I noticed right away 8 is the common denominator. Take a minute to rewrite your fractions so they have 8 with the common denominator. Do this on your paper. Okay, for 5 and 5/8, you know that you keep the 5 because we already have the 8. For 3 and 1/4, we need to multiply by 2. Okay. I'm going to rewrite the problem. You keep solving on your paper. We have 5 and 5/8 minus 3 and 2/8. So what do we get as an answer? Five minus 2 is 3/8. 5 minus 3 is 2. All right. So this was subtracting mixed numbers.